Elizabeth Meisner, and we are really pleased to introduce you to the BNI Foundation's initiative called Business Voices. Elizabeth and I are the co-founders of the BNI Foundation. Most of you on this call are probably aware of BNI or members or director consultants in BNI. For those of you who aren't, BNI is a referral marketing organization for business entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals. We have about 6,700 groups in 56 countries around the world with 170,000 members worldwide. Today we're going to be talking to a number of people, including Derek Bowles, who is with Stand Up America, and he'll be having an opportunity to speak. Tia Ross, Kevin Singleton. Tia is with Motivating the Teen Spirit, Kevin with Elevate New York. And we're going to all talk about what our vision is for education and how Business Voices might be able to help in some way here in the United States. We also are very pleased to let you know that we have Coach Dale Brown on the call as well, and we're going to put him up first in just a moment. But before I do that, Elizabeth, would you like to talk briefly about what your vision is for Business Voices, and then we'll let Coach Brown go. You're muted, Beth. Can't hear you. If you'd like to come on over here, you can use the phone I'm on. Sorry, everybody. A little technical difficulty there.
Okay, thankfully we live and work at the same place. I just was saying thank you guys so much for coming on the call. I'm blessed and honored that you're spending part of your Friday morning with us. I don't normally watch sensationalized television coverage, but when the things that were happening in Ferguson, Missouri started to go in a bad direction, I couldn't step away, and I don't understand it until now last week when I was at the Riverside business meeting, and I really then understood why I was glued to that TV, because I was being inspired, and I was being motivated, and I was being ignited to do something bigger than what we've been doing for education in the BNI Foundation. I watched the militarized police force coming head-to-head with a community that was in crisis, clearly in crisis. The agitators are a different story. They were a lot of people that were there that had ulterior motives for being there and weren't exactly the ones that were hurt by what was happening. But later I heard someone at Mike Brown's funeral say, if we can equip the police in this country with military-grade equipment, but we can't equip our public schools, there's something wrong. And that really hit me in the heart, and I realized in the BNI Foundation we have the ability and the capacity to make a huge impact with inner city schools, to network with the teachers that need our support, to put work teams in place to come in and upgrade the school facilities. We can do so many things above and beyond just giving donations to other charities that are doing that type of work. We can get involved, and we can be part of the solution. And then it dawned on me that if we don't equip our public schools, if we aren't part of the team that works together to equip the teachers to do their job well, we are going as a country to be equipping our riot police further and further and doing it more. So I felt a real burning desire to gather all of you around me, if you will, and take us into the inner cities and really start getting serious about our mission, which is to improve tomorrow's business through education today. And it's not just a game, it's not just a hobby, this is a passion, this is a mission. And I'm very encouraged that a lot of you have responded as I've been writing about this and talking about it, that you're feeling the same way. So this picture on the slide of the school is a school in Philadelphia. It's Buck High School, and it's actually has been closed. Our public school system is in a state of absolute crisis. Charter schools, I think Kevin is going to talk maybe briefly about charter schools in New York. They're not the answer because the kids that are getting left behind are getting further and further and further behind, and they're getting pressed down even more, and the hopelessness is expanding. So that's the why for my vision, and I want to have Ivan share the why about education. What is it about education, Ivan, that had you so inspired to start the BNI Foundation and to move in that direction?
Well, I truly believe that education is a great equalizer. I grew up in a fairly low-income neighborhood. Virtually all the people I know who made it out of that neighborhood did so because of their continuing education. The key, however, is, I believe, to support children when they're young. The economic downturn has taken a toll on state school funding and on targeted programs like preschool that can really help disadvantaged children. And I believe that high-quality early educational programs improve the educational outcomes of all children, but particularly for low-income children. School programs that have been documented by research and practice to be effective should be supported. Beth and I had an opportunity to spend some time with Richard Branson last year, and I did an interview with Richard, which is on my blog, where I talked about the concept of where he talked about the concept of the B team. The B team stands for the business team. And Branson feels strongly that government is just not doing the job in a number of areas, and that business is positioned to be able to help in ways that government can't. And the whole concept with the B team is people, planet, and profit. That first you've got to focus on people, and then the planet, and profit will come from that. I believe as a business owner that I have an obligation to put back into the communities from which I draw, and I believe that there are many BNI members around the world that feel that way. Our foundation is all about children and education, and this fits that concept extremely well. So when Elizabeth came up with the idea of Business Voices, I was fully on board, and here we are with this webinar. Now, Derek, I know that Coach Brown is limited on time, so maybe I pulled up his slide. Maybe you can introduce Coach Brown, and Mr. Brown, if you have some comments that you'd like to share. I know you are passionate on this topic. We would love to hear those. Derek, would you like to make the introduction?
Absolutely. You know, Coach Brown is one of the only men that I see as walking as close to our Lord and Savior on this planet. And I say that in a very humble spirit. Coach is the first individual, and I need everyone on the call to understand this, to tell me as a 29-year-old man, another man, that he loved me. And that was profound. And that set me on a course for what I believe God has called me to do, and Coach has been a part of that. Challenging our country status quo, challenging obviously wrongs that are happening in our country. Coach Brown is one of the strongest voices that I've been around in my life. So I'm honored to introduce Coach, to even have him on this call. And Coach, I love you.
Thank you, Derek, and I love you tons too, and I'm privileged to be on here with you, and let me applaud all of you for making a stand and having some moral courage. Now, with time limited, let me be as candid as I can. Number one, America is in a coma when it comes to education. The public school situation is atrocious. There's too many politicians in Washington, D.C., and not enough statesmen, but that's not the problem. There's not enough American patriots standing up and doing something. Talk is cheap. I remember one night years ago, it stimulated me forever. I have two of my heroes. One of them is Nelson Mandela. One night I was up late watching television. I'm not very good at a lot of things, but I am the world's greatest channel surfer. I can get to more channels. My wife won't even watch TV with me. But one night watching television, I flipped through it and I backed up to the channel. It was 1 a.m. in the morning. There was a man sitting on a steel bunk in a prison, and a cameraman and a journalist there with his arms stretched out. So I turned up the volume, and he said, "Mr. Mandela." At that time, I had no idea who Nelson Mandela was. He said, "Mr. Mandela, I can touch the walls of this prison with both my arms stretched out." He said, "In 3 steps I can walk the distance. You, for 27 years, have been locked up unfairly in this prison cell. How in the world can any man not go crazy or be bitter by this happening to them?" The cameras are now focused on Nelson Mandela, only as Nelson Mandela could do. With a very benevolent smile, he said the following. He said there were 2 reasons why I didn't grow bitter and why I didn't go crazy. Number 1, God never left my side. Number 2, he said I had a commitment in the marrow of my bones that all of the black people of South Africa should be free. However, before you can ever be free, you must be educated, disciplined, and respectful to one another. Education is imperative. Well, now let's run the clock further ahead. Martin Luther King, who truly was a giant of a man, he was being interviewed and talking about the problems in America. And it's pretty simple. The problems in America are not a black problem, it's not a white problem, it's an American problem, and we have to face it. But in interviewing him, I'm going to give you his exact quote. They were talking about what can change things around. Listen to what Martin Luther King said. He said, "Riots cannot win, and their participants know it. Hence, rioting is not revolutionary, but reactionary, and invites defeat and futility. Change can only happen through education, justice, and unity. As long as the mind is enslaved, the body can never be free. There's no emancipation. No civil rights can totally bring the kind of freedom man needs. Man will only be free when he reaches down in the depths of his own being and signs his own emancipation proclamation. And that begins with being educated." I saw this in my family. 2 days before I was born, my so-called father left my mother and I and 2 older sisters. Never returned, sent us money, we had no communication. She came off a farm in North Dakota, 8th grade education. We had to move into a 1-room apartment above a bar and a hardware store. Terrible, terrible poverty. She had to go on welfare. She, as I say, babysat, and she cleaned people's homes. But that woman, I never heard her once ever complain. There's an old philosophy she had. If you're looking for a helping hand, look at the end of your arm. But what she did stress, she stressed, "Dale, you cannot let this happen to you. I've only got an 8th grade education. You have to get an education." Now, had I been born black in this country, or Native American Indian, and I'm from North Dakota, with my personality, I probably would have been dead at 15. Now, that's not the answer, to be dead at 15. The answer is to do what a Martin Luther King did, to do what a Nelson Mandela did, and speak up. Yet, in speaking up, perfect example, CN anchor Don Lemon is from Port Ellen, right here by Baton Rouge. On his show one night, he offered a sincere and honest commentary on fixing the problems, and it created a firestorm of criticism. He was accused of not understanding the history, the sociology, the psychology of his own people. You can't be afraid to speak the truth, and I think that happens. So we have to be candid. Talk is cheap. What can we do? We can do anything we want. The impossible is what nobody can do until somebody does it. But now let's look at some cold, hard facts. What helps to perpetuate the problem? There's numerous things that help. We have to understand that in talking about the situation, we can't be politically correct. We have to just talk about the truth. I think that Jesse Jackson made a real profound statement. He was talking about, he was going all over the country, and he was traveling throughout, trying to talk about crime throughout the United States, and so he was in Chicago. And while he was in Chicago, he was being interviewed, and they were asking about, what can we do to change this thing around? He said, if we're to move from victim to victory, he said, we have to be honest to one another. We have to look inside ourselves. We can't keep on pointing the finger of blame at somebody else. He said, let me give you an example. At this stage of my life, I'm not happy to say this, but he said, when I walk down a dark street at night, and I hear footsteps behind me. He said, I get worried and I turn around and I see it's a white man. I'm more relieved. That's sad. I have to make that statement. So we have to just be honest to one another. And growing up in Indian country, I saw what happened to them. From 1607 to the present time, the U.S. government had 370 treaties with the Native American Indians, and we never fully kept one of them. And as a result, we've stymied them. We've taken away things from them. So what you people are doing today, I hope it'll really stimulate people to understand that, hey, we really need to get together on this. Now, the key to moving from victim to victory, there's no magic wand, there's no pill, there's no prayer, there's no prescription. There's just the fact. If we want to move from victim to victory, we have to solve injustices, we have to have education, discipline, commitment, respecting each other, doing our very best, and being honest to yourself. Nothing is so beneficial as true knowledge of ourselves. And to conclude my part of it, if I could, when I sit here today, and I applaud you people for what you've done, you can think, well, man, is this possible? Yes, it is possible. Martin Luther King said it so well. He said, all people in this world are tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. When we build the kind of relationships with each other where we enter into a covenant and belong to each other and be involved with each other in pursuing our goals, together we will then and only then find peace, love, happiness, and real success. Well, I feel this way. There's 7 billion of us on this planet right now, more than there's ever been in the history of the world. Now, man, he's done just about everything. We can fly faster and higher than any bird in the history of the world. We can dig deeper and longer into the earth than any burrowing creature in the history of the world. The only thing we haven't learned to do yet is walk on earth like men and women. When we do this, we'll move forward and make the world a better place to live in for everybody. You can do it if you take immediate and massive action and have moral courage. The moral courage of a Sitting Bull, a Crazy Horse, a Nelson Mandela, or Martin Luther King. And finally, on my part, how does evil perpetuate itself? Whenever evil and good compromise, evil always wins. My wife and I were in Poland. We were in Krakow. I saw that the greatest concentration and annihilation camp in the history of the world, million plus incinerated and murdered, in Auschwitz was near. We drove over there. We went through the museum. As we went through the museum, I had all kinds of emotions. First, I was pugilistic. I wanted to deck somebody. Then I was mad. Then I was melancholy. Then I was confused. And I finally said to my wife, how can human beings possibly do this? How is it possible? How can they do this to each other? Well, she said, oh, be quiet. I'm going outside. So I walked outside, and I walked down a gravel road, and I leaned up against a pole. And on that pole was a little plaque, and I didn't know the pole was an old railroad tie. And I got my answer, how evil can perpetuate itself. It said the road to Auschwitz was built by hatred, but it was paved with indifference. Now let's talk about the problem in America. How would you like to be if you were an African American and suffered unfairly through 250 years of slavery, 90 years of Jim Crow, 60 years of separate but equal, and 35 years of a racist housing policy? Now, when we recognize and admit this, America will be whole. Now, with that in mind, what Martin Luther King said, riots aren't the answer. What Nelson Mandela said, it's got to be done with peace, justice, and it starts with education. If you're not educated, the chances are you're not going to get a job. Now, what perpetuates the problem in the African community is kind of the same one I grew up in. 75% of all births are out of wedlock. Well, mine wasn't out of wedlock, but I had no father. Nearly 70% of these children are growing up in single-parent homes. Education is the major problem. Less than 50% of black males graduate from high school, and 75% of crimes are committed by high school dropouts. I was visiting Angola, the notorious state penitentiary in Louisiana. The warden's a friend of mine, Earl Keane, who's probably the best in the country. And I said to him, Warden, what's the average education of the prisoners in Angola? Now, this is not incorrect what I'm going to say. He said, Dale, it's sad to say this, it's 5th grade. So, victim to victory, we have to look inside ourselves. We have to be honest. The politicians, we can point to who gets them there. Is anybody doing? Everybody can complain about them, but are we doing anything? Are we writing? Are we calling them? Are we going to Washington, D.C.? Are we speaking up in our communities? Silence is also betrayal. So am I optimistic? Yes, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic, though, only if we recognize that the best potential of me is we. And when we do that, I think we're going to see things come back a little better. And then the final thing, somehow, some way, we've got to find our moral compass. What we've done, and this hasn't got anything to do with religion or anything else, but I hope it's spirituality, we got to put God back in our life. The God that says we are brothers and sisters at a late. The only thing we've ever done on this earth, fighting and hating and killing in wars, the only notable advancement we've ever made in the history of the world is when we've been brothers and sisters at a labor towards a common goal. And that common goal should be to love each other, to help each other. And with that simple thing, I'm going to have to run. But again, let me applaud you all. I really, and Derek Bowles, I'm going to embarrass him now. But I've been in 90 countries in all 50 states. I've met a lot of people. Instantly, when I met him, I knew there was something special about him. And you people, what you're doing today is special. We must all learn to live together. And we can only do it by standing up and being counted. And most people don't want to do that. They want to be politically correct or popular. That doesn't get anything done.
Oh, Coach,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much for spending that time with us this
And
morning.
my pleasure. And Derek Bowles, I hope your wife loves you as much as I do.
She does, Coach. I love you too, man. Love you too.
God bless you all. Bye.
We love you
Bye-bye.
too, Coach. Bye-bye. Oh, okay. Well, that was galvanizing. I loved it. And I think that I would like to take just a second to introduce the next person who's going to present. This is Derek. I'm going to introduce Derek. I met Derek just this past year in April, so he's a new friend for me. And like Coach, I was very impressed with his whole being just the very first time I saw him speak and his message. He's been involved in an organization that he started. He's going to tell you a little bit about it and his observations about the educational system and where the needs are. We thought we'd bring these three people in to kind of share from their perspective of where the needs they see are and what they've seen working and how we could consider forming our Business Voices initiative in a way that plugs in meaningfully. So, Derek, would you please share with us for a little bit about what you're doing and what you've seen and how you think we can get involved?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Beth and Ivan. I'm just honored again. And, listening to Coach, I continue to get convicted. There is a tremendous need, not just in the education. I want to kind of go back so people on the call really kind of understand the genesis of what I've been called to do, and the whole mantra of standing up was really to challenge our entire country to realign our moral compass, and that's what we've been focusing on. And so we thought about this idea of, hey, let's just focus on youth, but then we realized we were just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. So then we went into the education system. And as we started to go into the education system, we realized, wow, the parents and the adults have some challenges. So we stepped into that business arena to mobilize and galvanize business leaders. And then we realized that law enforcement needed help. And so we stepped into civil authority. And then the last piece of the pillars was our faith-based community. We realized that, man, we were really struggling in the faith-based community. And so Stand Up America has initiatives in all 5 of those pillars, and the pillars that we spend most of our time in is our youth and education. So we go into schools, we work with administrators, superintendents, and we developed a program, a curriculum that really speaks to developing leadership skills based on character. And so we kind of looked at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and said, if young people if they don't have the ability to solve problems, to critically think, to find ways to just meet their humanistic needs, if they can't figure out how to get a good meal, or those things don't matter when it comes to arithmetic or reading or anything that encompasses curriculum. And so we wanted to teach them leadership skills around how to survive and actually develop some soft skills to be successful in this world. And then after we went into schools and started to develop leaders, we realized that the educators also needed to be empowered to be more impactful and more, I'm going to use this word, intentional in their platform. And so we started to provide professional development and in-services for educators so that they realized that this wasn't just, I'm a subject matter expert and I'm going to provide content to a kid. We need to be pouring into these young people to help them become pro-social, positive adults. That's who we're actually helping to build. And so it's been very interesting. Coach Brown is exactly right. We have a lot of broken systems, a lot of broken people who are actually in positions to influence our future. And so we're focusing on the people part. How can we help to mend and bring people together and get the intentions to be in the right space so that they can pour in? And like I said, when I introduce Coach, I talk about being 29 years old, and I'm from Detroit, Michigan. And from my childhood to the age of 29, I hadn't had another powerful, influential, strong male ever tell me that they love me. And I think that's very sad, even from my experience. And so for him to come into my life and tell me he loved me changed the entire, future in being and self-worth on what it is that, is possible and what's possible if you can get that type of love from other individuals who are out there. So that's in a high-level, 50,000-foot overview, the work that we've been doing. We have board members on this call. We have some of our national partners on this call, which I want to acknowledge and talk about just briefly. One of our strategic partners is the National Police Athletic League. It is 2.5 million youth served annually, over 350 chapters across the U.S. and internationally, and their board members are on this call because they're interested in finding out ways to expand and be a conduit for change as well. PAL, and the beautiful thing about PAL, when we talk about Ferguson, they're all law enforcement, so that's all the civil authority who lead that initiative. And the truth is there are a lot of really, really good law enforcement and police and civil authority. We just have to find ways to connect the dots so we can break down that perception that they're the enemy. And so I wanted to acknowledge National PAL as well.
That's going into New York City schools, and I'm sorry, let me back up. I want to go next to Tia, don't I? And we'll save Kevin for after Tia. Tia Ross with Motivating the Teen Spirit, very good friend of ours. She's working directly with youth, and in her organization they have a huge, I'm going to let her give you the numbers and the specifics, a very big impact on teen suicide. And Tia, would you do give us the pleasure of sharing a little bit about your work, what you see the needs are, and then help us so that when we have our discussion after the next presenters, we can talk about what direction do we want to go with our initiative with Business Voices. So take a 5-minute moment here and tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how it's impacting teens and how we can plug in and where the needs are.
And Derek, we appreciate your comments very much.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, can hear you.
So, thank you for the opportunity to join and, be a part of this beginning of something that I know the earth is ready for and crying out for. I've been with Motivating the Teen Spirit for the last 14 years. Lisa Nichols, the creator of Motivating the Teen Spirit and the curriculum, created this program over 16 years ago. throughout our years of doing this work, we have traveled all around the world, touching the lives and dropping into different communities outside of the United States and within the United States. And I share that only to say, through these years of traveling and doing the work that we do with youth and communities, I have seen a common thread. And that is why I believe that what we are starting with now in Beth's obedience and Ivan's obedience is right on time. There has been a epidemic of not all of the schools. It's not just the United States that is in a state of need within the school districts. Believe it or not, we just left Kazakhstan, Russia last year, and I shockingly found out that on a global level, they were the third country that had the highest suicide rate within their youth communities. And that shocked me because it took my scope from just our communities into other communities, and it made me look at and connect the dots to the common thread, which is what we call emotional literacy. So Derek is right on. Students can't focus on math and English and science and geography, all of the literacies of education. The one literacy of education that is missing right here in our inner cities is emotional literacy. It is the ability to deal with the pressures of life, the things that you don't have control over. If mom and father are divorcing or, have lost a job and find it hard to pay for bills, and you're dealing with peer pressure at school and self-acceptance and not really loving yourself, all of these thoughts are running through your head as you're paying attention or trying to pay attention to math or science or literacy, and walking away from that, not being able to pay attention, often leaves our youth feeling as if they are not great at what they do, and they have a self-talk. They begin to develop a self-talk. I suck at math. I'm not great at reading. That's the worst subject. I can't stand it. And they start to disengage in education, and it all begins with missing a component called emotional literacy. How do I balance dealing with life and the pressures of life that I can't control and yet be successful and stay engaged? And it's a skill that not just our youth need, but our teachers, our leaders, our youth ministers, our youth advocates and youth agencies within communities that support schools need to be touched as well. So over the last 14 years, we have touched the lives of over 220,000 youth and families. We have, as Beth said, prevented over 3,600 teen suicides. We have placed back over 1,292 youth back into the school system, and we've stopped counting the number of families that we have reunited. And I don't say those numbers in a braggadocious way. I only say it to say that there is a need, and we have to band together to do something, because it's not up to just one organization. All of us that are on this call are impacting communities and families in different ways, off in our own corners. And what I love about what we are talking about is coming together to affect the masses in a larger, more effective way. So at the end of the day, we're about getting results. It's not about us. It is about getting results and changing legacies. We, myself, I actually was drawn to this work because I grew up in the inner city between gangs, prostitution, and drugs in my own household. I was a teen mom at 16, had no idea that I was going through all of that to put me in the position that I am today, and being able to relate and go back into the neighborhoods and give them what it is I know that they need to come out. And come out and be successful and live in their brilliance and purpose that they were put on this earth to live in. And so it's my pleasure, to be a part of something that I know is right on time. And the last thing that I'm going to say is that through all of just my years of experience, the one piece that I want to make sure that I be a stand for is not just emotional literacy, but meeting and engaging these youth and families in the inner city where they are. The key is to get them to buy in and become a part of their own solution. Right. I heard Coach say that. I heard Derek say that. You know, we'll probably hear that before this call is up again. And yes, from someone who's in the trenches, I do this full time. This is my purpose, and my life with Motivating the Masses. Been holding the space for this for over 14 years. And I'm telling you, coming just from a space of passion and purpose, that they have to be a part of their solution. We can all have programs and curriculums and put money towards it. And at the end of the day, we have to get buy-in. It is really about what they do when we leave. It's really about what they do after we give them the money. You know, do they have the ability to sustain themselves and not run out of the funding and the need is still there? How do you engage people into the resources that you are providing for them so that it's not a one-time event or a one-time, touch, or they receive a grant for $100,000 that keeps them moving for a year, but what happens after that year? What skills have we placed inside of them to live in integrity when there is no money? What skills have we placed inside of them to live in integrity and make the right decisions when no one is around looking, when the media and the cameras are not on them? Those are the skills that emotional literacy gives them. And so in terms of what we bring to the table with Motivating Teen Spirit is that emotional literacy piece. We also bring years of experience and love and really our passion and desire to get to the result of what is happening and help these communities and inner city schools to become self-sufficient. So that's
these are really good points, and we'd like to continue to talk about them. We have about 20 minutes left, and I want to make sure Kevin has a chance to speak. And we also, before we're done, we want to talk about some of the specific things that we can do with the business voices. So if you've got any closing comments, then
no, I was done. I actually was finished, so that was great.
Great. Thank you, Tia. We appreciate that. Beth, would you like to introduce Kevin?
Sure, and I just want to reiterate my thanks, Tia. I've seen what y'all are doing, and it is fantastic. Kevin is going to share with us a little bit now about an organization I've just found out about. I mean, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of things I'm going to be learning as we go forward in this part of the journey. Can you advance to the next slide, honey? So we have Kevin Singleton. He is with Elevate New York. His story is an amazing one. I want you to hear from him, and I want you to hear what has been done just in the schools that he's impacting right now and what the needs are for us to engage with him and help him do what it is he's doing so well. Kevin, welcome to the call.
Can't hear you, Kevin. Oh, there we go. I think. Kevin, we had you earlier.
He was having some construction being done at an apartment near him, so he had muted out.
Kevin, we can't hear you. I tell you what, you continue to try to unmute Kevin and speak up whenever you can.
I can give a little bit of overview while we're waiting for Kevin to come live with us.
And then we can jump right into the topics that we want to cover before.
Okay. So some of the things Kevin said to me that really attracted me to his ministry and his mission, wanting to bring him on the call, is the key about relationship. And again, this is tying in with exactly what we've heard from Tia and from Derek. Elevate New York goes into an inner city school with staff who's there on campus on a regular basis, building relationships with the kids, being partners with them in their educational process, checking in with them to make sure things are getting done, that homework's getting done, that grades are doing well, that they're able to get paperwork filled out, and many, many other things that I don't even know the whole scope of. But his point to me was that in order for a teen to succeed in school is to have they need to have a strong, close, trusting relationship with one adult in their life. And Elevate New York is providing that resource for these teens. They actually do programs where they take them out of the hood and they take them on trips, snowboarding trips, other kinds of trips where they're together with their peers and they're with adults that care about them. They have the opportunity to fail, to fall down, and to get back up and to learn those life lessons, to have conversations with the kids that are meaningful, not just about culture and you know, common topics like the music scene or what have you. They do talk about that as well, but then they are able to have deeper conversations with them as well as soon as the kids start building that trust and come to depend on these adults in their lives. I've invited Kevin to join in at a BNI chapter. He's going to go visit a Manhattan chapter. His offices are in Manhattan. And he's going to an 83-member chapter to present to them what Elevate New York is all about, to start plugging into the BNI region there. And also Dana in the region where the schools are, the schools Kevin's pouring into are in the Bronx. And Dana Fusco is the director there, and she's going to bring him into her BNI groups and let them meet Kevin and learn a little bit more about their mission. My hope with this connection is that the BNI members in the regions where Kevin is working can assess what the needs are from the community, the wider community, and come in and be involved with Elevate New York in some capacity. And for some of the BNI members, it might be going into the schools and being part of the staff and doing those types of activities with the kids. For others, it may be fundraising, doing activities outside of that inner city community, but that are all going back into the resource pool that they need to draw from. Are you on the phone, on live yet, Kevin?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, do you want to give me those statistics you were giving me, Kevin? Those were so impressive, and then we'll move on to our discussion topics.
Well, and I'm hearing a delay. Are you all hearing that as well?
No, we hear you perfectly.
Okay, good. So I don't know exactly which one you were talking about because we talked for about an hour. But Del Elliott, in a 2001 Surgeon General report, made a statement. He said, for a young person to have a statistical chance of success in life, they have to have one positive, long-term adult relationship. One positive, long-term adult relationship. And that's what we've been talking about on the phone this morning. And we exist to find young people, 20-something, well, I'm 50 now, and so when I'm still in the classroom, people who feel that youth development and youth work is their life calling. And Tavis Smiley said it something like this. He said, young people will not be full-eyes. They're like Polaroid cameras. They won't be fully realized human beings unless they're exposed. And so one of the things we try to do is expose them to greatness. We expose them to people who care for them. And the way we do it is, as the other two speakers have said, we get into the public school by building a relationship with the administrators, and we standing on the shoulders of Colorado Uplift, which is a 32-year-old organization in Denver, Colorado, that's won many awards. They've served over 50,000 kids in that city. They serve about 5,500 kids every day in Metro Denver. And we are simply replicating a model that has already worked. They've replicated in Orlando, Phoenix, New York, and now in Portland. And so the way we do it is we go into a principal with this curriculum and he vets it, because that is our hook to build relationships and to build trust with our students. As we all know, the demographic we're talking about here, their trust has been broken many, many times in life. And so our goal is first to build that trust, and the way we build that trust is by being in the public school every day, teaching an elective class every single day. And we teach 13 character qualities and life skills as an elective. They've got to come to my class and learn about respect for a grade to graduate. We have 3 categories we teach: future mapping, keys for success, and internal compass. Our 13 are vision, responsibility, career, courage, work ethic, leadership, communication, problem solving, integrity, decision making, caring, goals, and respect. And we teach that in a curriculum that's very strategic. And part of what we do when those kids learn, they have to now teach 2 to 3 days a week to 2nd through 5th graders in a neighboring elementary school. That does 2 things. One, it teaches them communication skills, leadership, problem solving, decision making, classroom management skills. But it also teaches them to be philanthropic now while they don't have 2 nickels to rub together. We want to teach them that it's important that what you've learned, you need to give back to your community. And then what we do is we continue this, and this is a holistic approach, so I'm giving you simply the highlights of it. But then we take those kids outside of the classroom. So people say, are you after school? No, we're in school and after school. We earn the right to be heard in an elective class, but then we take students outside of the classroom. Someone just gave me 22 tickets to a Yankees game, so we'll be in a luxury suite at the Yankees game this Sunday talking about those 13 character qualities and life skills. We won't just be talking about baseball and popcorn. We'll be talking about life. Because we hire people and they understand that they're signing up to be 24/7, 365 teacher, mentor, surrogates. And that is the progression. You start as a teacher, you earn the right to be heard, you become a mentor, and then these kids end up calling us mom and dad because of all that we've heard about the neglect of parents in our nation. They're looking for an adult who has character, who has emotional, what was your term again? What you just said to you? They have that. They have emotional IQ, and that person is someone that these young people can lean on and learn from. You know, one of the things that B&I can do is do what we've done with a company called Instinet. Twice a month. We used to do it every week. But twice a month, we'll take our kids down to Times Square and sit in a boardroom overlooking Bryant Park. That company pays out $81 million in bonuses every day. And so what we're doing is we're taking kids from the poorest congressional district in the U.S. into Times Square, and we're talking about the same principles that we were teaching them in the classroom, but now they're learning it from super successful people in every sector of that business. I think I heard earlier, Beth was mentioning snowboarding. That's what they did in Denver. But the concept is, holistically, if you go in school, after school, and adventure, you do something to get kids out of their neighborhood, out of their comfort zone, challenge them to do something they've never thought possible, and watch them overcome through persistence and hard work. And when they do that, now they have a confidence that they never had before. And because the same person who's your teacher, who's going to a baseball game with you, or going to a boardroom with you, and that same person is now outside in nature with you, they've now built the trust so that they can say to a kid, why do you have a 55 in your English class? Inevitably, that kid will say, well, my teacher's fault. Then we'll say, let's go talk to that teacher. We become an advocate on the campus doing what their parents should do, but their parents don't know how to do because in most cases, their parents never graduated from high school or went to college and don't know how to be an advocate for their kid. So that is our program, and I believe the way that B&I can help is do what the people at Instinet do. From 4:30 to 5:30, they walk away from their desk into the boardroom. We bring the kids in, and our kids now learn from a top-tier company. And it's amazing what can happen with simply 1 hour of interaction with the kid 1 day a week. A lot of times people don't want to get involved with the demographic of students that we work with because they think, well, I'm not an expert. I don't know how to work at this. What you need to do is understand that young people spell love T-I-M-E. If you're willing to take the time and simply give what you've been given. I think one of the most important questions in the Old Testament was when God said to Moses, what's in your hand? Because it was a walking stick. It was a very common thing to Moses, but it was a very common thing that God used to deliver an entire nation. So many of us have things that we don't even count valuable anymore, but when you look at our demographic, we've never heard of the type of excellence that you're simply holding in your hand. So I'll stop now because I'll keep going.
So what I was impressed by with Kevin's organization is their graduation rate has risen up to 95%, I think was what you said. Yeah, Kevin, 95%?
That's
so
correct. In New York City, it's 65%.
In your, okay, 65%. So we talked about several of the other cities that Elevate is in. you're having a positive impact right now on the kids in the inner city, which are the ones that Business Voices wants to really support and help in. So I'm glad to hear what you're doing. Thank you very much. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Tia, for sharing. And now we want to kind of, in the time remaining, I want to hear from the BNI members on the call. If you'd like to speak, Ivan's going to give you some parameters on how to open the mic for you. How will that work, honey? We've got a couple of topics.
We appreciate the comments from Derek, Tia, Kevin, and of course Coach Brown. Any one of you could have easily been the only speaker for today. You've got such compelling content from what you're doing. We do want to spend a little time talking about the way we are going to create Business Voices, and we do have an opportunity to do an open mic where if you would like to say something and you know you have a microphone on your computer, I can unmute you. You're welcome to ask whatever questions. Some of you have called in. Just let me know. The easiest way to let me know is to not raise your hand. Will, I see your hand up. I don't know if that means you'd like to speak, but the easiest way is to send me under the questions, just send me a question that says I would like to speak. That'd be the easiest thing. If you send that, then I'll open up your mic. For everyone else that's on, if you could mute yourself, Derek, Kevin, Tia, I see you are muted. If you can mute yourself, unless you want to speak up, please do. So John and Will both want to say something. I'm going to open you up. Here's a couple of questions that we'd like to talk about. Any one of these. What kind of initiative should Business Voices be? How do we determine the best way we can serve the greatest needs for the inner city public school systems? And how do we enroll the engagement and mobilization of the 80,000 plus BNI members across the U.S.? We have 80,000 BNI members in the U.S. The Foundation's about children and education. How can we do that? So let me start with Will. Will, I'm going to unmute you. You are unmuted. Will, if you would like to speak, you can.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Meisner. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to speak. I am so extremely excited about this initiative. I can't even begin to tell you. I am a high school basketball coach here in the Yakima area of an inner city school. I came from a Christian school into the inner city to make a difference, and last year on my basketball team, we had 4 homeless kids, and giving back and building them up and showing them that there is love, accountability, and expectations is a huge thing in their lives. And to have one of those homeless kids leaving for college today, I just can't tell you the goosebumps it gives me. But that being said, I really feel like we can motivate and move the rest of the BNI community by giving examples of young men like the man that's going to college today, and through our passion and our desires. So again, I want to say thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to the Meisner family for bringing this initiative forward, and absolutely anything I can do, I would love to help.
Well, Will, we appreciate it a lot. I think one of the things you can do is drop an email to Beth and let her know that you're interested. I don't know, Beth, if you have any ideas on how we can, actually we have your email address, so when you logged in we got everyone's email, so Elizabeth would be happy to follow up with everyone.
I'll
here.
follow up, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your comments. Okay, John.
So when we think, let me just interject before we bring John in, we think about Business Voices. When you share your remarks or comments, tell us what you think we should be. Do we want to have more calls like this where we bring 1 or 2 people on to share some of the specifics about how they're helping, and then connect them locally with BNI groups? Do we want to do more publicity for these organizations and make them more visible within our 80,000 members of BNI? What are your thoughts? How are we going to manifest this going forward?
You bring up a good point. There's a lot of things we can do. My experience is the more you can focus on what you want to be when you grow up, the more likely you are to achieve some success. So, you know, we've got the people, we've got the manpower. What exactly do we want to focus on? John, you had your hands up. You said you'd like to speak. I'm going to unmute your phone. You should be able to talk now, John.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Ivan, frankly, I don't even know how I got invited into this call. I actually feel like it's a blessing. I have some friends that are in BNI, but I'm not a member. But when I saw the subject of what you were going to talk about today, I just had to jump on. I don't want to pitch you over the phone, but I'm the chairman of a company called Essential Skills Advantage. Our programming and curriculum is used in over 20,000 schools across America. And so I don't want this to be a pitch, but I do want to talk to some of you offline perhaps about a new initiative that we've literally just launched 3 weeks ago, where small business and individuals are sponsoring our curriculum across America. In 3 weeks, our curriculum has already been spread across 93 different countries. And that's because it's free. And so I do want to have a chance to go offline and just let you know, and I'll tell you, we would just love the support of BNI members. I think they would love what we've done, and it's already been launched, and it's getting met with great success, and I'd love to talk to you offline later and just give you an example of what we're doing.
Well, thanks, John. I appreciate that. You can connect directly with Beth. Her email address is Beth Meisner, Beth Meisner, M-I-S-N-E-R, @bni.com.
Thank you so
she'd
much.
be happy to talk to you. Yeah. No, I appreciate it.
And Beth, are you around like after this call? Because I happen to be here and I'll be traveling the next month. So if we could talk today, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, shoot me an email and I'll connect up with you after the call. Not a problem.
Okay, Beth.
So
Beth, we have one comment that I'd like
Yes.
to be able to share,
Great.
and that is Steve Black. Steve, let me see if I can unmute you here. Hang on just
Steve is a
second.
new executive director in BNI. Congratulations, Steve. Right here in our backyard.
Thank you.
in Austin.
Well, yeah, a little bit further away
Great
now.
comment.
Thank you. Yeah, I know that it's a pretty simple thing, but having an optional donation on the application for BNI members, both renewal and new applications. It doesn't have to be a large amount, $1 or $5, let the member choose, but with 80,000 plus members across the U.S., that could add up to a substantial amount of money.
Mm-hmm. That's something we have considered, and I'll put it back on the topic for the senior management of BNI. Thank you for bringing that up, Steve. Appreciate
Thanks.
that tip.
Great, Steve. I think it's certainly worth considering. Hans has a question, Beth, or a comment on a question before I open Hans's mic. You were going to say something?
No, I'm just getting ready to wrap up the call because we are at the top of the hour, and I want to honor the time.
All right, let me let Hans speak for a minute. Hans, we are at the top of the hour, so if you can keep it brief, your mic is unmuted.
I am live. Well, I'm a Southern boy, but I talk fast, so I don't know. I'm not sure how that happened. All I want to say is, first of all, this is great, and Derek and I was actually with Derek when he met Coach Brown, and it was a magical moment. I can attest to that. I just want to say this. We've done a lot together, and Derek's done tons since we've been shoulder to shoulder, and a movement has to be mission-based. With obviously, if this is, you got a lot of people with a lot of different ideas and thoughts. You had a lot of different people engaged in this call with backgrounds and specifics, and I think that the critical piece is that everything you do has got to be outcome-based. And I know I'm talking to a slew of business people, but if it's not outcome-based, you'll spend a lot of time talking about a lot of things, be a lot of energy, there'll be a lot of passion, and the train won't move at the rate or speed that it needs to. So, one thing I would think, especially if you got a group this large, clearly defined strategic planks that individuals and organizations can literally like plug and play or snap into, is where you're going to get a lot of momentum, because it's so hard for individuals or organizations to say, what do I do? And it's not really an issue of money, because if it was, because there's a lot of money in this world, there wouldn't be any issues. So it's really a matter of people understanding and knowing what they can do. So my comments, I only say that comment without being able to add a solution at the moment. That I would be happy to lend any of my help, expertise, experience, or whatever to help create that platform, because without a platform, a strategic platform to move forward, my fear is that there'll be a lot of energy spent, and 6 months, 9 months from now, we'll be talking about some of the same topics with passion but no action.
Great, great, great points. I'd love to connect up with you after the call, too, if you've got time.
Thanks, Hans. Beth, there are a number of other comments, so we're not going to have a lot.
We're going to do another call, and that's what I wanted to say. If you could go advance to the next slide, Ivan. We've already got a date for October 3rd in 2 weeks to do another call. Same time. We'll have a link that'll go up with the recorded version of this call, so we'll get the word out about it. And it's October 3rd, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. We have a web address, businessvoices.org. Right now that web address points to the BNI Foundation page. The BNI Foundation page is going to have a tab across the top that will be specifically dedicated to business voices. And there we'll have our mission statement, we'll have our talking points and all of our updates and announcements about calls and what's happening, what our program is doing, and what we're needing from BNI members and anybody who wants to get involved with us. So that's how to stay in touch with us. Come on to the next webinar. Watch our social media pages, Ivan's, mine, the BNI Foundation's. BNI directors will get sent also the link for the upcoming call and the link for the recording of this call. And I just want to thank everyone who came on the call, who hung in there for the whole hour, and will come back and again and again and again. And I just am so grateful and humbled by your participation and your enthusiasm, and I'm waiting to be dazzled by all of our action on it, because we can have all the intention in the world, but without action we don't get very far. So thanks, Hans, for that reminder. Ivan, do you want to wrap with any final comments?
Yes, I just wanted to let Cindy, Will, and Andy and Roy know that I got all of, and Dawn, you've sent a message as well. We got all of the messages. I believe that I can get all of these when the webinar is finished, and so I will pass them on to Beth. Please communicate your comments and questions to her. Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
I will start a post on the BNI Foundation page as well, Ivan, so that we can kind of talk virtually there after the call. So you can head over there and meet me there, and we can even keep talking. I've got time.
And I want to, again, thank all of the participants, Derek, Kevin, Tia, of course, Coach Brown, for having played a role in this webinar. We appreciate it. This is the beginning of this movement, this initiative within BNI, Business Voices, and a big thank you to Beth. This is really her project. So let me say goodbye to everyone. I'll stick on. We can stay on for a minute or two.